Hi, you clicked on to today's tropical tidbit for Monday. The big story in the tropics today is Tropical Cyclone Yasi over here entering the Coral Sea northeast of Australia. You can see here on the water vapor it has very excellent equatorward outflow over here. You can see a good core, symmetric core going. Looks like a borderline Category 1, Category 2 system on the Saffir-Simpson scale right now. Yesterday it tried to get an eye going. You can't really see it on this loop, but on the visible yesterday you could see one. It was laced with dry air a little bit yesterday, so its core has been having a little bit of a hard time getting going. It looks like it's starting to mix out that dry air, but the core still doesn't have a solid eye wall structure in it yet. We're still waiting for a microwave pass. Most of them are 12 hours old at this point, so we'll see how it looks later on today. But this is probably going to gradually continue to strengthen. Again, notice the outflow is very nice over here. You've got a decent poleward channel going, but also notice this upper low east of Australia over here moving northwest right now, and you can kind of see this at the end of the loop here starting to impede the outflow to the southwest of the system, and I have a feeling this upper low is going to continue to inhibit poleward ventilation for Yasi as time goes on over here, because this is going to be meandering around the coast as this tries to come ashore. A long wave trough down here is going to be progressing northeastward or eastward rather over here, pushing the ridge off to the west and allowing this to come curving southwestward, which is the direction cyclones recurve in the southern hemisphere here, probably making landfall south of Cairns, Australia somewhere. In this area is where the models are generally agreeing on a landfall within 48 to 60 hours. This is probably going to be a major event for Queensland, and given all the rainfall that they've had in this area, probably not a great time to have a tropical cyclone coming ashore. Right now the JTWC has Yasi being a Cat 4 as it comes in. I'm not so sure about Cat 4. I could definitely see this being a Cat 3 or higher storm. I'm leaning a little bit more towards Cat 3 than Cat 4 at this point. I still want to see if it's going to get its core going with a nice eye and see if this can really go the distance and become a major storm. I also want to see how much this upper low is going to inhibit outflow on this side of the storm. Although we have a nice ridge over here to the north, conditions aren't quite perfect, so I doubt we're going to see a monster strong Cat 4, Cat 5 out of this. Might get a weak 4. But I would say Cat 3, strong Cat 3 would be a more solid estimate for landfall, but we'll see how it goes. Either way, going to be a major event for northern Queensland here, and this is not going to be fun for these folks. Fortunately, the European model has been stellar, predicting this storm for the last week, and thus people in this area have been preparing for a while, knowing that that model is generally good at these things, so hopefully people are getting ready over there. Upper divergence map. Wanted to show you this real quick, showing the center of upward motion here. Here's the core, the center of the system. You can see how the upward motion and upward divergence here is stacked off a little bit offset to the northeast, and you get a little bit more sinking air over here as you get near this upper low to the south, showing a little bit of asymmetry to the upper air pattern over here, showing that conditions are not ideal for this storm to become a true historic monster. Among other things, besides the tropics, check out the Day 15 GFS ensembles for the northern hemispheric pattern over here. Notice how the heights are starting to rise south of Siberia over here in the ridge backing west of Alaska. We have it pumping into Alaska right now, and of course we got the trough into the east and all this stuff. We got a winter storm that's going to be cutting up and causing all sorts of havoc in the center part of the country. But notice in the long term, for the last several days now, I've been watching the GFS backing this ridge to the east over here, going to try to dump some more cold air back into Alaska. And notice the big polar vortex backing westward into Canada. And now you start to see not lower than normal heights here, but more normal heights. You get more of a ridge out here in the Atlantic, more of a southwesterly flow, perhaps starting to warm up the country a little bit in the southeast here. Still pretty cold up here to the north. And of course really cold in Canada, but this is finally starting to look a little bit more like a classic La Nina pattern, finally starting to show up with the ridge here, and finally you don't have all the low heights that have been around Japan thus far this winter, which has been one thing that's been inhibiting this ridge from really building in here like it normally does during the cold PDO coupled with a La Nina. Generally get a nice ridge in here, but there's been a stubborn trough over here in Japan despite all the warm water in the northwest Pacific. It's been interesting to see this winter, quite bizarre for a strong La Nina. It'll be interesting to see if finally, here in the last month of the meteorological winter, we actually go to the pattern. We have the ridge here, trough into the west, and then ridging over the southeast United States. Better late than never, I guess. Alright, that's it for today. Thanks for watching.